Far away from Earth, in a quiet corner of the galaxy, there was a small star system called Valaris. For many years, Valaris had been home to a peaceful alien civilization known as the Ellerons. They were not warriors. They were builders, scientists, and explorers. Their cities floated above blue oceans, and their ships traveled between the stars to trade and learn from other worlds. But peace in the galaxy never lasts forever. One dark day, long shadows appeared at the edge of the Valaris system. At first, the Elleron sensors detected only a few unknown ships. Their scientists thought they were travelers or traders passing through. But within hours, more signals appeared. Then hundreds. Then thousands. A massive war fleet was approaching. The ships belonged to the Zirith Empire, one of the most feared powers in the galaxy. Wherever the Zirith Empire went, destruction followed. They did not believe in peace. They believed in conquest. When the Ellerons realized who was coming, fear spread across their world. Their defense fleet rushed into space, forming a line between the enemy ships and their home planet. But everyone knew the truth. The Ellerons were not ready for war. The Zirith fleet arrived like a dark storm across the stars. Giant warships filled the sky, blocking the light of distant suns. Their weapons charged with a cold, blue glow. The battle began quickly. The Elleron ships fought with courage, but they were small and lightly armed. One by one, their ships were destroyed. Explosions flashed across the darkness as the Zirith warships pushed deeper into the system. Within hours, the Elleron defense fleet was almost gone. On the surface of the planet, millions of civilians watched the sky in silence. The stars above their world were no longer peaceful. They were filled with fire. In the Elleron Command Center, leaders gathered around a glowing holographic map. Red symbols marked the enemy ships. The map was almost completely red. Their last admiral spoke quietly. "We cannot stop them." The room fell silent. One of the council members asked the question everyone was afraid to say. "Then what do we do?" The admiral looked at the map for a long moment. "We call for help." A powerful distress signal was prepared and sent across the galaxy. It traveled faster than light, reaching nearby systems and the Great Galactic Council. The message was simple. "This is Valaris. We are under attack by the Zirith Empire. Our fleets are destroyed. Our people will not survive without help. We ask any civilization that hears this message, please help us." Then they waited. Minutes passed. Hours passed. But no one answered. Far away, many civilizations received the message. Some watched the battle through long-range sensors. Others listened to the desperate call again and again. But none of them moved. The Zirith Empire was too powerful. Helping Valaris would mean starting a war they could not win. Even the Galactic Council refused to act. Their official reply was short and cold. Intervention is not recommended. Back on Valaris, hope slowly disappeared. The Zirith fleet moved closer to the planet. Their massive ships formed attack positions above the atmosphere. Cities below prepared emergency shelters. Families held each other, knowing the end might come soon. In the command center, the council members sat quietly. Their distress signal had traveled across half the galaxy. And still no one came. Then one young officer spoke softly. "There is one more place we could call." The others looked at him. "Who?" one council member asked. The officer hesitated. "Earth." The room reacted immediately. Some members laughed in disbelief. Others shook their heads. Humans were known across the galaxy, but they were strange and unpredictable. Some called them brave. Others called them dangerous. But most believed one thing. Humans did not interfere in galactic wars. "They will not come," one council member said. The officer looked back at the star map. "Maybe," he replied. "But right now, they are our last hope. The distress signal was sent again. This time, it was directed toward one distant system. Sol. Hours later, as the Zirith fleet prepared to destroy the planet, the Ellerin sensors suddenly detected something strange. A signal. Not from the enemy. Not from nearby space. But from deep in the darkness between the stars. The signal was massive. And it was moving toward Valaris. Fast. The command center of Valaris suddenly became alive with activity. The quiet room filled with the sounds of alarms, sensor reports, and confused voices. Officers rushed between control panels while the giant holographic map of the system flickered with new signals. One of the sensor officers stared at his screen in disbelief. "Unknown objects detected," he said slowly. The Ellerin admiral stepped closer. "How many?" The officer paused for a moment before answering. "At first, we thought it was 10. The admiral frowned. "And now?" The officer swallowed nervously. "Now it looks like hundreds." The room fell silent again. Hundreds of ships were approaching Valaris from deep space, moving faster than anything the Ellerins had ever seen before. They were not coming from a nearby system. They were coming from far away, crossing the dark void between stars with terrifying speed. Another officer looked up from his station. "They are not Zirith ships," she said. "Their energy signals are completely different." The admiral's eyes narrowed. "Can we identify them?" The sensors tried to lock onto the incoming objects. Slowly, the blurry shapes became clearer on the holographic display. Large ships. Very large ships. Bigger than anything the Ellerins had ever built. Some of them were shaped like long metal giants, covered with heavy armor and massive weapon systems. Others were wide carrier ships surrounded by smaller fighter craft. The fleet looked organized, powerful, and perfectly coordinated. But one thing confused everyone. The ships had human markings. The officer whispered the words almost in shock. "They're from Earth." Across the planet, emergency shelters were filled with frightened civilians. Many people were watching the sky through public broadcasts from the command center. When the news spread that an unknown fleet was arriving, hope and fear mixed together. Could someone actually be coming to help? Above the planet, the Zirith Empire noticed the same signals. Inside the bridge of the largest Zirith warship, the enemy commander studied the incoming fleet on his tactical display. His sharp eyes scanned the information carefully. "Identify those ships," he ordered. An officer quickly responded. "Unknown design, Commander. They do not match any fleet in our database." The commander leaned closer to the screen. Then the answer appeared. "Origin confirmed," the officer said. "Human." The commander laughed quietly. "Humans," he repeated. "Those strange creatures from the Sol system?" Another officer nodded. "Yes, Commander." The Zirith commander leaned back in his chair with confidence. "Then there is nothing to worry about." Around him, several officers nodded in agreement. Humans were known in the galaxy, but they were often seen as unpredictable explorers, not powerful warriors. The Zirith Empire had defeated dozens of advanced civilizations before. One human fleet would not change the outcome. Meanwhile, the human ships continued moving toward Valaris. More and more signals appeared on the sensors. What first looked like hundreds quickly became thousands. The fleet stretched across a large part of the star system. Then the first ships arrived. A flash of bright blue light appeared in space as a group of enormous warships dropped out of hyperspace. Their dark metallic hulls reflected the distant starlight. Massive rail cannons lined their sides, and powerful energy shields shimmered faintly around them. The Ellerin stared in awe. The largest human ship moved forward slowly, positioning itself between the Zirith fleet and the planet. It was a giant dreadnought, easily 3 times the size of the biggest Ellerin ship ever built. Moments later, a message was broadcast across every communication channel in the system. The voice was calm and steady. "This is the United Earth Fleet." Both the Elrons and the Zirith forces listened carefully. "You are currently threatening a civilian world." There was a short pause. Then the voice continued. "Stand down immediately and leave this system." Silence filled space for a moment. Then the Zirith commander responded with anger. "You dare challenge the Zirith Empire," he growled. His fleet began powering their weapons. "You have arrived too late, humans," he continued. "This planet belongs to us now." Inside the human dreadnought, the fleet commander watched the enemy ships carefully. He gave a simple order. "Battle stations." Across the system, thousands of human warships powered up their weapons at the same time. The Zirith commander suddenly noticed something strange on his sensors. More signals were appearing. Many more. Ships were still arriving. The human fleet was not just large. It was far larger than anyone expected. And it was still growing. Across the Valaris system, the silence before the battle felt heavy. Thousands of ships now filled the darkness between the stars. On one side stood the massive fleet of the Zirith Empire. On the other side, the newly arrived ships of humanity held their positions in perfect formation. The Elrons watched everything from their command center on the planet below. Many of them had never seen human technology before. They expected strange ships, maybe even brave pilots. But what they saw instead was something far more frightening. The human fleet looked like a wall of steel. Long rows of battleships floated in space, each one covered in thick armor and powerful weapon systems. Giant carriers released small fighter craft that moved quickly around the fleet like swarms of metal birds. Behind them, enormous dreadnoughts stood silently, their massive cannons slowly turning toward the enemy. Even the Elron admiral felt a chill. "These ships were built for war," he whispered. Above the planet, the Zirith commander also studied the battlefield. At first he had laughed at the arrival of the humans. But now his expression had changed. The number of human ships was far greater than expected. Still, the Zirith Empire had never lost a battle like this before. The commander stood and gave his order. "Destroy them." Within seconds, the Zirith fleet opened fire. Brilliant beams of energy shot across space. Heavy plasma cannons roared as hundreds of weapons targeted the human formation. Missiles streaked through the darkness like burning comets. The first wave of attacks crashed directly into the human fleet. But something unexpected happened. The human ships did not move. Bright shields appeared around them, glowing softly as the enemy fire struck their defenses. Explosions flashed against the shields, but the ships themselves remained untouched. The Zirith commander leaned forward in disbelief. "How are their shields still holding?" Before anyone could answer, the humans responded. From the front line of battleships, massive rail cannons fired at once. Long lines of light cut across the battlefield as metal projectiles accelerated to impossible speeds. The first Zirith warship exploded instantly. Then another. Then 5 more. The Elrons watching from the planet gasped in shock. They had never seen weapons like this before. Next came the missiles. Hundreds of small launch ports opened along the sides of human ships. Waves of missiles burst forward, spreading across space like a glowing storm. Each one moved with incredible speed and perfect guidance. The Zirith fleet tried to shoot them down, but there were too many. Explosions filled the battlefield. Enemy cruisers broke apart under the attacks. Fighters disappeared in flashes of fire. Even the massive Zirith battleships began to fall. Inside the Zirith command ship, panic slowly began to grow. "This is impossible," one officer said. "Their weapons are too powerful." The commander clenched his fists. "Send the attack fighters," he ordered. Thousands of Zirith fighters launched toward the human fleet, hoping to overwhelm their defenses. But the humans were ready. From the giant carriers, waves of human fighters launched into space. They moved fast and smooth, guided by advanced systems and skilled pilots. The two fighter forces collided in the middle of the battlefield. The dogfight was intense. Laser fire flashed everywhere as ships twisted and turned through the chaos. But slowly, the advantage became clear. The human fighters were faster, smarter, more precise. One by one, the Zirith fighters were destroyed. Back in the command center of Valaris, the Elleran leaders watched the battle in silence. Just hours ago they believed their world was about to end. Now something unbelievable was happening. The Zirith Empire was losing. The once unstoppable fleet was beginning to break apart under the power of humanity's war machines. But then another message came from the sensors. The officer looked up nervously. "Admiral, new enemy signals detected." The room grew quiet again. "How many?" the admiral asked. The officer checked the screen carefully. Thousands more Zirith ships, entering the system. The Zirith Empire had called for reinforcements. Above the battlefield, the human fleet commander saw the same information appear on his display. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he smiled slightly. "Good," he said calmly. He pressed a communication button. "Prepare the next wave." The officer beside him looked confused. "Next wave, sir." The commander nodded. "Yes." He pointed toward the edge of the star system. Because far away in deep space, even more human ships were arriving. The battlefield above Valaris had already become one of the largest space battles in recent galactic history. Broken ships drifted through the darkness, glowing pieces of metal slowly spinning through the silent void. Fires from destroyed vessels flickered like small stars between the fleets. But the battle was far from over. Inside the Zirith command ship, the enemy commander stared at the tactical map with cold determination. Many of his ships had already been destroyed, but the Zirith Empire still had one great advantage: numbers. Thousands of reinforcement ships were now entering the Valaris system from hyperspace. New warships appeared like dark shadows spreading across the stars. The commander allowed himself a small smile. "Humans," he said quietly, "you fought well. But now you will learn what it means to face the full power of the Zirith Empire." Across the battlefield, the new Zirith fleet began forming attack formations. Their ships moved quickly to surround the human fleet from multiple directions. The Ellerans watching from the planet below felt fear return. One council member spoke nervously. "There are too many of them." Even the Elleran admiral looked worried now. The human fleet had fought with incredible strength, but the Zirith reinforcements were enormous. If the battle continued like this, even the powerful human ships might eventually be overwhelmed. Above the planet, the human fleet commander watched the new enemy fleet appear on his display. Hundreds of red warning signals filled the tactical screen. An officer beside him spoke carefully. "Sir, the Zirith reinforcements outnumber us 3-1. The commander remained calm. "Do they?" he asked quietly. The officer looked confused. Before he could respond, another signal appeared on the screen. Then another. And another. The tactical display began filling with blue symbols. Human symbols. At the edge of the star system, space itself began to glow with bright flashes of light. Massive hyperspace portals opened across the darkness. From those portals, more human warships began to appear. First dozens. Then hundreds. Then thousands. Entire new fleets of human ships emerged from hyperspace like a rising storm. Gigantic dreadnoughts, carriers, battleships, and cruisers poured into the system in perfect formation. Their engines burned with bright blue light as they quickly moved to join the battle. The Elleran stared at the sensors in disbelief. Their officer whispered softly. "Those are human ships too." The admiral slowly realized the truth. The fleet that had first arrived to save Valaris was only the beginning. This was the real human response. Across the battlefield, the Zirith commander also saw the new arrivals. His confident expression disappeared. The number of human ships was now far greater than anything he expected. His officers began speaking rapidly. "Commander, human fleets are arriving from multiple directions. Our scanners cannot count them all. They're forming a complete blockade around the system." For the first time during the entire war, the Zirith commander felt something he had not felt in many years. Uncertainty. The human commander activated a system-wide communication broadcast. His calm voice spread across every ship in the Valaris system. "To the Zirith Empire," he said. "You have attacked a civilian world." There was a short pause. Then the message continued. "You ignored their call for mercy." Another pause followed. But humanity did not. As the message ended, the newly arrived human fleets finished forming their battle lines. The entire system was now surrounded by thousands of Earth's warships. The Zirith fleet was trapped. In the Ellerin command center, the room was completely silent. Every screen showed the same incredible sight. The human fleet now stretched across the entire star system like an endless ocean of steel. One council member whispered in amazement. "How many ships does Earth have?" The admiral slowly shook his head. "I don't think anyone in the galaxy truly knows." Back in the human command ship, the fleet commander gave one final order. "Begin full offensive operations." Across the system, thousands of human weapons powered up at once. Bright lights appeared along the sides of countless warships. Rail cannons aligned with their targets. Missile systems prepared to launch. The Zirith Empire had entered the battle believing victory was certain. But now the truth had become clear. They had just made war with humanity. And the entire galaxy was about to witness what that really meant. The Valaris star system had become a battlefield filled with fire and metal. Thousands of ships were fighting across the dark space above the planet. Explosions flashed like new stars, and the remains of destroyed warships drifted slowly between the fleets. But now the battle was changing. The arrival of the massive human fleets had completely shifted the balance of power. Human ships moved in perfect coordination. Groups of battleships formed attack lines while carriers launched endless waves of fighters. Giant dreadnoughts fired their heavy rail cannons again and again, each shot destroying another Zirith warship. The Zirith Empire had never faced an enemy like this before. Inside the Zirith command ship, the commander watched the battle collapse around him. His once powerful fleet was now breaking apart. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were being destroyed one after another. "Commander," one officer said nervously, "our outer fleets are retreating." The commander slammed his fist against the control panel. "No retreat," he shouted. But even as he spoke, more warning signals appeared on the screens. Human ships had surrounded the entire system. There was no escape. Above Valaris, the final stage of the battle began. Human warships pushed forward together, slowly forcing the remaining Zirith ships back toward the edge of the system. Their weapons fired with terrifying precision. One by one, the last Zirith ships were destroyed or forced to surrender. Within hours, the battle was over. The once feared Zirith fleet had been completely defeated. For the first time since the war began, the sky above Valaris became quiet again. On the planet below, millions of Ellerins watched the stars in disbelief. The ships that once threatened to destroy their world were gone. Instead, the sky was filled with the ships of Earth. The Ellerin Command Center received a communication request from the human flagship. The leaders of Valaris quickly accepted the call. A holographic image appeared in the center of the room. The human fleet commander stood calmly in his uniform. Behind him, officers worked quietly on the bridge of the massive dreadnought. The Ellerin admiral stepped forward. "Commander, you have saved our world," he said. "We do not have the words to thank you." The human commander gave a small respectful nod. "You don't need to thank us," he replied. One of the Galactic Council members spoke with curiosity. "But there is something we do not understand." The commander waited patiently. "Our distress call was sent across the entire galaxy," the council member continued. "Many powerful civilizations heard it, but none of them came." The room grew quiet. "Why did humanity come?" the council member asked. For a moment, the human commander did not answer. Then he spoke calmly. "Because humans remember something the rest of the galaxy has forgotten." The Ellerin leaders listened carefully. "When a people are about to disappear," the commander continued, "you do not ask if helping them is safe. You help them anyway." Silence filled the command center. Outside, thousands of human ships slowly moved into peaceful formation above the planet. Repair vessels began helping damaged Ellerin stations. Medical ships prepared to assist survivors. Cargo ships started delivering supplies to the planet below. Humanity had not only come to fight. They had come to rebuild. The Ellerin admiral looked at the commander again. "The galaxy feared the Zirith Empire for centuries," he said. "Today you defeated them in a single battle." The human commander gave a small smile. "They made one mistake," he said. "What mistake?" the admiral asked. The commander looked toward the stars outside the bridge window. "They thought no one would come." He paused for a moment. "But when humanity hears someone call for help," his voice became calm and certain, "we always answer." Across the galaxy, news of the battle at Valaris began to spread. Civilizations everywhere received the same shocking reports. The Zirith Empire had been defeated. Not by a great alliance. Not by the Galactic Council. But by Earth. And from that day forward, every civilization in the galaxy understood one important truth. If a human fleet appears in your system, the war is already over.